Okay, so you've probably seen that clip making the rounds from The Diary of a CEO, the one where Stephen Bartlett lays out his number one habit for success in 2026, collecting people. And, it sounds amazing, right? It's electrifying. But is this a revolutionary hiring strategy, or is it just really dangerous advice wrapped up in a super compelling story? Well, today we're doing a full critical audit. We're going to separate the actual strategy from the influencer survivorship bias. And this is the hook, isn't it? It's so seductive. This idea that you can just build an empire by finding the most brilliant weirdos out there and then just breaking all the rules to get them. It sounds like a cheat code for success. But here's the thing about cheat codes. The ones that work for players on level 99? Yeah, they almost never work for those of us just starting out on level 1. So let's break this down. What is the collecting people philosophy exactly? Well, at its core, the method is to hunt down these so-called outsiders. The tactic? Basically ignore all the standard HR rules. Fly a total stranger to Bali on a whim just to secure them. And the goal, the big prize, is to reach this promised land where the business just magically runs itself. The only rule for getting there is that every single person you hire has to be better than the current average. On paper, it sounds incredible. But let's be real for a second. Is this really some new discovery for 2026? The reality is, this is ancient wisdom with a fresh coat of paint. It's a high production value, slickly marketed version of the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that makes this a classic case of marketing masquerading as methodology. The idea isn't new, it's just been rebranded. Okay, and here's the first major flaw. The philosophy pushes for a 99% alignment score with your hires. But think about what happens when you do that. When you seek that insane level of alignment, you're not building a team anymore. You're building an echo chamber. You're just falling head first into confirmation bias, hiring clones of yourself. This doesn't create collaboration. It absolutely murders cognitive diversity, which is the very engine of innovation you're supposedly trying to build. And this exposes another huge problem, what we call the wired versus tired bias. This collecting people approach, it naturally favors the wired hire. The type super high charisma, energizes the whole room, amazing in an interview. But in doing so, you risk completely overlooking the tired hire. That's the quiet, heads down, deep work person, who might actually be the genius engineer or the brilliant strategist you desperately need. We have to remember, charisma is not competence. And when it comes to high-stakes execution, boring competence almost always wins against wired enthusiasm. And this really gets to the kind of uncomfortable core of the whole thing. The way it's framed is that the founder uses the collection to achieve relief of pain and reach their personal promised land. This creates a deeply transactional hierarchy. It's a form of utilitarian dehumanization, where the collector is the hero and the collected are basically just non-player characters, NPCs, in the game, there to help the protagonist win. But real, sustainable businesses, they're built on partnerships, not collections. So, okay, we've got echo chambers, a bias against deep work, and a pretty dehumanizing framework. That's a lot. But what is the single biggest, most fatal flaw in this entire philosophy? It's survivorship bias. It's that simple. We hear these incredible stories from statistical anomalies like Stephen Bartlett or Kevin Hart, and we assume their path is the blueprint. But it's not. It's what you could call the Michael Jordan fallacy. You can't study the exception and think you've figured out the rule. Because for every one success story we hear, there is a vast, silent graveyard of the 99.9% who tried the exact same strategy and failed. And this, right here, brings us to the leverage gap. The advice that works for a celebrity with millions in the bank, a massive built-in audience, and a huge reputation, well, that advice is a recipe for disaster for 99% of founders. When you're bootstrapped, when you have zero audience, when you are the entire workforce and the HR department, you can't afford to fly prospects to Bali. There's a huge gap between his reality and yours. What works over here fails spectacularly over here. So when you put it all together, when you really look at it, you see the entire philosophy is just a house of cards. And it's built on a foundation of classic logical fallacies. You've got survivorship bias, confusing outliers with a repeatable plan. You've got confirmation bias, creating those dangerous echo chambers. You've got the halo effect, mistaking charisma for actual competence. And you've got utilitarianism, treating human beings like resources to be collected instead of partners to build with. So, what's our final verdict? Let's give this thing a report card. For inspiration, it gets an A, no question. It's emotionally powerful, it's fantastically produced, but for practicality, we have to give it a D. It just requires a level of capital and fame that most people don't have. Ethics? It gets a C- for its pretty transactional view of people.
And for logic, it gets an F. It's fundamentally flawed and relies almost entirely on survivorship bias.
So what's a better way to think about this? Well, it's all about shifting your mindset. Don't collect people, partner with them. The diary approach is all about building a hierarchy based on vibes with the ultimate goal of escaping the work. The notebook approach, on the other hand, is about building partnerships based on competence with the goal of building resilience. It's a completely different game. And this is really the key takeaway from all of this. Real, sustainable success isn't about finding people to do your work for you so you can just stop and escape to some promised land. It's about finding true peers, true partners, to help you share the weight of the work that, in reality, never truly ends. The goal here should always be rigorous thinking for the modern builder. It's not about blindly following advice you see, even from successful people. It's about rigorously, critically evaluating your inputs so that you can build something that actually lasts. Hey, if you enjoyed this critical audit, if you want to see more popular business ideas put under the microscope just like this, please do us a huge favor and hit those like and subscribe buttons for the Get Notebook channel. It honestly helps us a ton. And finally, we really want to hear from you. What piece of business advice or viral video trend do you think we should deconstruct next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. We want to know what you'd like to see notebooked.